Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. Okay, here's the document you provided organized into the form of a one-line, one-sentence subtitle file with no changes to the content. After 7 years of marriage, Quinn began to doubt his wife, Jocelyn, for the first time. This suspicion took root quietly in his heart like a seed and grew wildly at an imperceptible rate over the next few days. It all started with a perfectly normal family dinner. That night, the table was set with Jocelyn's favorite dishes, French lobster and foie gras, and a bottle of red wine that Quinn had kept for years. These were prepared by Quinn, who wanted to take the opportunity to catch up with Jocelyn and make up for his recent work commitments. However, Jocelyn's reaction was unusually cold. She ate her meal absent-mindedly, her eyes darting every now and then to her cell phone sitting in the corner of the table. Every time her cell phone screen lit up, an imperceptible flash of panic flickered in her eyes before she quickly picked up the phone and turned her back on Quinn to reply to the message. "Been working a lot lately?" Quinn tried to break the silence, looking for something to talk about. Without lifting her head, Jocelyn replied blandly, "It's okay, just the way it is. I remember you used to love going to those art shows, didn't you? Why don't you seem to have much interest these days?" Quinn continued to test the waters. He remembers that Jocelyn used to be so excited to drag him along to all the art exhibitions, but lately she's been going out alone and coming back later and later. "Nothing to see here. It's all just claptrap." Jocelyn's tone held a hint of impatience as she put down her knife and fork and picked up her cell phone. "I'm full. Take your time." When she finished, she got up and left the table and went into the bedroom, closing the door behind her. Quinn looked at Jocelyn's back as she left, and an inexplicable uneasiness welled up in his heart. He knew his wife and Jocelyn, though a little willful at times, would never have been so rude at dinner, much less so indifferent to him. In the past 7 years, although the passion between them is not as strong as when they were in love, they have been respecting each other and their relationship has been stable. What had changed her so much? Quinn and Jocelyn met at a friend's birthday party. At the time, Quinn hadn't yet started his own tech empire and was just a programmer at a startup, while Jocelyn was already a well-known art critic and a well-known figure in the community. The two hit it off at a party and quickly fall in love. Quinn admires Jocelyn's beauty and talent, and Jocelyn is attracted to Quinn's talent and humor. A year later, they entered the marriage hall and became the envied couple in the eyes of their friends. Married life is sweet and cozy. Quinn worked hard and prospered, eventually founding his own technology company, which he quickly grew to become a leader in the industry with a keen sense of business and technical aptitude. Jocelyn quit her job to become a full-time wife, focusing on her family and supporting Quinn's career. Quinn provided Jocelyn with a life of luxury in a Manhattan mansion, access to high-end establishments, and the envy of her friends. However, as time went on, Jocelyn gradually felt an unspeakable emptiness. As Quinn's career grew, so did her time. Her day-to-day life is nothing but shopping, beauty treatments, and parties, and she's left alone with an empty mansion. She began to miss the days of her old job and the fulfillment of being recognized and needed. To kill her boredom, Jocelyn began attending art exhibitions and salons. She met the artist Rowan at an exhibition. Young, handsome, and talented, Rowan's passionate and imaginative work captivated Jocelyn. More importantly, Rowan had a knack for sweet-talking Jocelyn, picking up on her moods and giving her the utmost care and praise. This gave Jocelyn, who had long been left alone by Quinn, a warm and valued feeling she hadn't seen in a long time. At first, Jocelyn thought of Rowan as a friend, but as their relationship progressed, Jocelyn realized she had a special feeling for Rowan. She began to look forward to every meeting with Rowan, enjoying the freshness and excitement he brought her. Rowan also seemed to have a soft spot for Jocelyn, inviting her to his studio, painting her portrait, and even organizing a private exhibition for her. Jocelyn is overwhelmed by the excitement and fulfillment of it all, and she can't stop herself from being immersed in the romantic dream that Rowan has woven for her. Quinn, on the other hand, had already noticed Jocelyn's abnormality, but he didn't expect things to go so far. He thought it was just a temporary mood swing for Jocelyn, and that if he just spent more time with her, everything would be fine. However, Quinn soon realizes he was wrong. Jocelyn grows colder and colder towards him, often finding excuses to go out and even stay out all night. Quinn's mind is filled with doubt and unease, and he's determined to find out the truth. However, asking Jocelyn directly is obviously not a good idea. Knowing Jocelyn as he does, if he confronts her directly, he will only startle her and may even cause a complete breakdown in their relationship. On second thought, Quinn decides to hire a private investigator to look into Jocelyn's whereabouts. He was introduced by a friend to a veteran private investigator named Vance. Vance has a strong reputation in the industry for professionalism, efficiency, and confidentiality, and has successfully handled many complex cases. Mr. Quinn, please rest assured that I will do my best to investigate your wife's whereabouts and provide you with a detailed report. Vance solemnly promised at Quinn's office in Manhattan. Quinn nodded and handed Vance Jocelyn's picture and some basic information for a generous advance. He told Vance that he didn't need the false superficiality, he just needed to know the truest picture. Over the next few days, Quinn commutes to work and handles company business as usual, but he's always distracted. He receives daily investigation reports from Vance detailing Jocelyn's whereabouts and contacts. Vance's investigation was very meticulous and professional. He not only tracked Jocelyn's daily activities, but also investigated her social circles and spending records through various channels. He discovers that Jocelyn has recently been frequenting a downtown art studio owned by none other than Rowan. Vance also snapped photos of Jocelyn and Rowan having dinner together at a fancy restaurant on multiple occasions, where the two are acting close and laughing, so it's clear they're not just friends. Additionally, Vance discovered that Jocelyn's credit card statements contained numerous large purchases made to Rowan's studio. Mr. Quinn, based on the results of the investigation so far, your wife and this Mr. Rowan have an extraordinary relationship. Vance handed a thick investigation report to Quinn and said seriously, "We have good reason to believe that there is an inappropriate male-female relationship between them." Quinn silently flipped through the report in his hands, his face growing grim. Every photo and piece of information in the report was like a sharp knife, stabbing him hard in the heart. The truth he had been unwilling to believe was laid bare before him. Turns out, Jocelyn really did betray him and their 7-year marriage. "Mr. Quinn, what do you plan to do next?" Vance asked. "Do you need me to continue to dig deeper?" Quinn took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. He knew that now was not the time for a showdown. He needed more time to think, to deploy a more thorough plan. He told Vance that while it had been determined that Jocelyn was having an affair with Rowan, he wanted Vance to continue to investigate them and find as much substantial evidence as possible, such as video recordings of their private meetings, etc. He also told Vance that Jocelyn's relationship with Rowan had not yet been finalized. "Yes, Mr. Quinn, I'll follow up on that." Vance nodded. In order to give Jocelyn and Rowan more time together and to facilitate his next move, Quinn decides to travel to London for a short period of time on business, citing that the company has an important project in London that he needs to take care of personally. Before he left, he told Jocelyn that he would finish his work as soon as possible and come back to be with her. Jocelyn acts a little reluctant, but Quinn knows it's just her disguise. The plane lands at London Heathrow and Quinn walks out of the airport, taking a deep breath of the foreign air. He knew that a silent war had been fought, and he, for one, would no longer be the passive party. During his time in London, in addition to handling the company's European expansion, Quinn began to investigate Rowan's background through his contacts. He discovers that Rowan is not as glamorous as he seems. He was a profligate spender, frequented casinos, and had affairs with several women. What's more, Quinn discovers that Rowan routinely cheats and takes advantage of the women around him in order to maintain his reputation and status. And while he was actually a longtime partner with his own agent, Meredith, and the two were in cahoots to use all sorts of women to boost their gallery's visibility and sales, exploiting and capitalizing on the value of their lovers through a variety of means, Jocelyn wasn't Rowan's first prey. "It seems that this game is more interesting than I thought," Quinn said to himself as he walked through his blog. He is determined to make Jocelyn and Rowan pay dearly for their betrayal. After Quinn leaves New York for London, Jocelyn seems to shed her heavy disguise, and her relationship with Rowan quickly heats up and becomes reckless. They dated frequently, went in and out of various upscale restaurants and private clubs together, and even began to go out in pairs on some semi-public occasions, not avoiding the gaze of onlookers. Thoroughly addicted to the sweet trap Rowan has woven for her, Jocelyn enjoys the feeling of being held in the palm of her hand, which has given her back her long-lost passion and confidence. You are truly my muse, and your beauty inspires me to create endlessly. Rowan says fondly of Jocelyn in his luxurious downtown studio. He is painting a portrait of Jocelyn, who is wearing a gorgeous gown and has a seductive look in her eyes. Jocelyn sits in front of her easel with her head turned slightly sideways and a happy smile on her face. She gazed at Rowan with love in her eyes. "You're always so good at cheering me up." She pouted. "I'm telling the truth." Rowan stepped forward and gently stroked Jocelyn's cheek. "My life has become colorful since I met you. You are the sunshine of my life." Jocelyn snuggles into Rowan's arms, enjoying the moment of warmth. She thought she had found true love and someone to commit her life to. What she doesn't realize is that it's all an elaborate hoax orchestrated by Rowan. Meanwhile, far away in London, Quinn wasn't as busy as Jocelyn thought he would be with company business. He left the day-to-day work to his trusted subordinates and devoted most of his own energy to the execution of his revenge plan. He knew that the best way to completely destroy someone was to destroy the things they held most dear. For Rowan, there is nothing he values more than his reputation and status. Quinn, on the other hand, happens to have the weapon that can destroy it all, the media. While in London, Quinn learns through his business connections that a media group called Peak Media is preparing to sell off some of its assets, including an influential art review magazine, Art Story, as well as several media outlets that specialize in entertainment gossip, and several social media accounts with large followings. Social media accounts. Quinn recognized that this was a great opportunity. He struck quickly and completed the acquisition of these media assets at a rapid pace. The whole process was conducted so discreetly that even Jocelyn had no knowledge of it. With the acquisition complete, Quinn began the first step of his revenge plan. He instructed the editor-in-chief of the magazine, Issue, to arrange for senior journalists to write a series of in-depth reports on the bubble and chaos of the contemporary art market. In an objective and neutral tone, these reports analyze some of the problems existing in the current art market, such as excessive speculation, false propaganda, plagiarism, and so on. The article does not directly name Rowan, but it does cite some of Rowan's work as a counterpoint to analyze. When these reports were published, they immediately caused an uproar in the art world. Art Narrative magazine is a highly respected authority in the industry, and its opinions can often shape the public's opinion of an artist. Many critics and collectors who had previously admired Rowan's work began to re-examine it, and some people who had intended to buy Rowan's work began to take a wait-and-see attitude. Rowan, naturally, had noticed the reports, and he felt a twinge of unease. He began contacting the editor-in-chief of the magazine, trying to understand the intent behind the stories, even suggesting that a public relations fee could be paid to put the matter to rest. However, the reply he received was that these reports are based on objective analysis of the facts, and there is no personal grudge. At the same time, Quinn authorized several entertainment media outlets to start breaking gossip about Rowan. The news is a mix of true and false information, such as Rowan's brief affair with a famous actress, Rowan's frequenting of casinos, and the alleged plagiarism of some of Rowan's work. There is no substantial evidence for these messages, but they are enough to trigger public reverie and skepticism. Rowan has been in the news for a long time and has gone from being a highly regarded rising star in the arts to the center of attention. Rowan's manager, Meredith, was also feeling the pressure, and she began urging Rowan to keep a low profile and avoid head-on confrontations with the media. Rowan, however, couldn't take the heat. He believes that he has done nothing wrong and that all this negative press is a deliberate attempt by someone to smear him behind the scenes. He even suspected that it was his competitors who were in the dark. In an effort to salvage his reputation, Rowan decided to hold a press conference to publicly address the questions. Quinn learns of Rowan's actions through Vance's debriefing, and a sneer crosses his lips. He knew that Rowan had stepped into his elaborate trap. On the day of the press conference, Rowan showed up in full costume and tried to look his best. He impassionedly refuted the media reports, claiming that he was an upstanding artist, that his work was all original, and that there was innocence between him and those female friends. However, his defense pales in comparison as he is unable to provide any strong evidence to support his claim. To add to Rowan's embarrassment, several women he had cheated on appeared at the press conference. They publicly accused Rowan of cheating on their relationships and using their resources for his own benefit. Some of these women are Rowan's former partners, some are Rowan's former models, and some are Rowan's former patrons. Their presence brought the press conference to a head and brought Rowan's image crashing down. "Rowan, you liar. You took advantage of my feelings and cheated me out of my investment. What else do you have to say?" said an emotional woman named Vera, a key investor in Rowan's early years who had funded many of his exhibitions. "I was so blind to believe your fancy words," cried another woman named Stella, one of Rowan's ex-girlfriends who had modeled for him and introduced him to many important clients. In the face of all the accusations and questions, Rowan was completely flustered. He tried to explain, tried to defend himself, but his voice was quickly drowned out by the sound of the crowd. The press conference turned into a farce and Rowan left the scene in disgrace. Meanwhile, far away in London, Quinn is watching the farce via live webcast. He felt a twinge of pleasure in his heart at the sight of Rowan's embarrassed appearance. He knew that this was just the beginning and that the best was yet to come. In addition to the media blitz, Quinn also got hold of more of Rowan and Meredith's darker secrets through Vance's investigation. As it turns out, Rowan and Meredith were not simply manager and artist. They were actually partners, if not co-conspirators, for many years. Using Rowan's good looks and artistic talent as bait, they specialize in approaching rich and powerful women and conning them out of their affections and money. Jocelyn is just one of their many prey. Their usual tactic is for Rowan to establish an intimate relationship with his target women, then borrow money from them or ask them to invest in his projects for various reasons, and then finally break up with them under various pretexts and transfer the debt to them. Quinn anonymously disclosed this information to several women who had been cheated on by Rowan and offered to fund their hiring of attorneys to file lawsuits against Rowan. After learning the truth, the women, who hated Rowan with a passion, expressed their willingness to join forces to bring Rowan to justice. Quinn's plan for revenge is well underway, while Jocelyn remains in the dark. She's shocked and dismayed by the negative press about Rowan, and she even begins to wonder if Rowan really loves her. However, whenever she challenged Rowan, he would always put her off with all sorts of sweet nothings and excuses. He told Jocelyn that these were all vilifications by a competitor and that he was actively dealing with the matter and that it would soon come out. Jocelyn believed Rowan so much that she even started to use her own savings and contacts to help Rowan through the difficult times. Quinn felt a twinge of mixed emotions in her heart as she watched Jocelyn fall deeper and deeper into the trap. He felt both pain and a twinge of sadness. He knows that when Jocelyn finally discovers the truth, she will suffer greatly. But he wasn't going to stop there. He wants Jocelyn to know firsthand how bitter betrayal really tastes. Rowan's press conference was a fiasco, his public image was in tatters, and his aura of artistic genius was dimmed. And Quinn's plan for revenge is just beginning to reach its climax. He returns to New York, partly to deal with the divorce himself, and partly to enjoy his prey, Rowan and Jocelyn, as they fight for their lives. Back in New York, Quinn continued to use his media resources to launch a more aggressive campaign against Rowan. This time, instead of settling for gossip, he instructed the media to name Rowan directly, with some carefully manipulated but clear evidence. The evidence included intimate photographs of Rowan with various women, surveillance screenshots of Rowan entering and exiting the casino, and video interviews with women who claimed to have been cheated on by Rowan. In these videos, women who have been cheated on by Rowan, either in tears or in anger, accuse Rowan of playing games with their relationships, cheating them out of money, and even threatening and intimidating them. The videos were immediately aired and caused a huge reaction in the community. The public skepticism and abuse of Rowan was at its peak, and he became a total pariah. In the face of overwhelming negative press and public pressure, Rowan finally felt fear. The artistic talent he once prided himself on is now his catalyst. Sales of his paintings fell off, previously scheduled exhibitions were canceled in droves, and even his landlord began urging him to move out of his studio. Rowan is in more trouble than he's ever been in, and he lives every day in fear and anxiety that he'll be arrested by the police. And to add to Rowan's despair, he realizes that the people around him are starting to leave him one by one. His agent, Meredith, after a big fight with him, announced that she was breaking off her relationship with him and took all the valuable paintings in his gallery with her. Meredith is well aware that Rowan is finished for good, and she must clear the air with him as soon as possible so that she is not implicated. "You piece of shit. You ruined everything for us," Meredith yelled hysterically over the phone. "I was so blind to work with someone like you in the first place. Meredith, you can't do this to me. We're partners. We agreed to work together." Rowan pleaded. "Share a common goal? What qualifications do you have to talk to me about sharing a common goal now? You are already unable to protect yourself," Meredith said coldly. "From now on, I don't have anything to do with you, so be on your own." With that, she hung up. Rowan sat down on the floor in a crumpled heap, feeling as if he had been abandoned by the whole world. He remembers Jocelyn, the woman he once saw as prey, but who is now his only salvation. He dialed Jocelyn's number and tried to get help from her. "Jocelyn, you have to believe me. All those news are fake. It's all a setup." Rowan pleaded over the phone. "You're the only one who can help me. You have to help me." By this time, however, Jocelyn was already struggling to keep her head above water. While her relationship with Rowan has heated up quickly since Quinn left, she's come to realize that something isn't right. She begins to wonder if Rowan's feelings for her are real, and if Rowan is really as talented as he says he is. Jocelyn's doubts deepened when Rowan's negative press broke. What's even more shocking for Jocelyn is that she suddenly finds herself at the center of the gossip media's attention. Intimate photos of her with Rowan began to appear on several websites and social media outlets, and there was even an edited video of Jocelyn appearing to be very forthcoming and indulgent. The photos and videos quickly went viral and Jocelyn's image was in tatters. Quinn took it all in stride and knew the time was right to make his move on Jocelyn. He technically manipulated the photos and videos of Jocelyn and Rowan. He skillfully blended some of Jocelyn's intimate photos, as well as videos of her in hotels with Rowan, into some of the indecent videos, making Jocelyn appear to be the female lead in those videos. He then hired a large number of water armies to post the doctored photos and videos on major websites and social media and quickly pushed the content into the limelight. The exposure of these indecent photos and indecent videos was devastating for Jocelyn. She was already under fire for her scandal with Rowan, and now she's even more of a target. She has been labeled as a slut, gold-digging woman, and other insulting labels, and has been subjected to countless netizens' abuse and attacks. Jocelyn's social circle also began to shun her. Her former celebrity friends had cut themselves off from her, fearing they would be implicated by her. Jocelyn's long-established image as a celebrity collapses, and she becomes a plague on high society. Quinn also arranged a series of scandals that further pushed Jocelyn and Rowan into the abyss. He arranged for people posing as Rowan's ardent fans to harass Rowan at a public event and broke the story of his sexual harassment scandal. The fans claim that Rowan has verbally and physically harassed them and are demanding a public apology from Rowan. The revelation of this scandal added to Rowan's already precarious image. Quinn also arranged for someone posing as a reporter to conduct an in-depth interview with Jocelyn. During the interviews, the journalists deliberately induced Jocelyn to make controversial statements, such as bigoted views on certain social phenomena and discriminatory remarks against certain vulnerable groups. They then edited these statements by Jocelyn out of context and posted them online. The comments sparked an immediate outcry from netizens, and Jocelyn was catapulted into the limelight, even having some of her well-known social media accounts banned. In the face of all this, Jocelyn was overwhelmed with fear and despair. She didn't understand why she had suddenly fallen from heaven to hell. She tries to contact Quinn to explain all of this, but Quinn's phone never connects. "Quinn, where are you? Come back and help me." Jocelyn cries and messages Quinn. "I know I'm wrong. I shouldn't have betrayed you. Please forgive me and help me." However, Quinn didn't respond to her. He watched it all with indifference, as if he were enjoying a play he had carefully directed. He knew that Jocelyn's nightmare was just beginning. With Quinn's careful planning, both Jocelyn and Rowan are in a desperate situation. Not only did they lose their reputation and status, but they also faced huge debts and legal sanctions. Everything they once had was reduced to nothing in an instant. Quinn, on the other hand, watches it all with the cold eyes of a victor. He wanted them to remember how heavy the price of betrayal really was. After a double blow to their careers and reputations, both Rowan and Jocelyn are in deep despair. They were like prey in Quinn's well-woven trap, and no amount of struggling would help. And Quinn, the manipulator behind the scenes, finally decides to step out from behind the curtain and confront Jocelyn head-on. Back in New York, Quinn appears to Jocelyn as a victor. He asks Jocelyn to meet him at an upscale restaurant where they used to date regularly and asks her for a divorce. "Let's get a divorce," Quinn said calmly, sitting across from Jocelyn, as if he were talking about something that didn't concern him. Jocelyn looked at the familiar and unfamiliar man in front of her with fear and unease. She couldn't understand why Quinn had become so cold and unfeeling in just a few months. "Quinn, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have betrayed you. Please give me another chance, okay?" Jocelyn cried and begged. She tried to grab Quinn's hand, but Quinn dodged it. "Chance? I've given you many chances, but have you cherished them?" Quinn said coldly, "From the moment you betrayed me, we were over." "No, Quinn, let me explain. It's not what you think it is between me and Rowan. I was cheated on by him." Jocelyn defended. "Deceived? Jocelyn, you're an adult. You should take responsibility for your own behavior." Quinn's tone was filled with disappointment and mockery. "You enjoyed the vanity and excitement he gave you, and now you're telling me you were deceived? Do you expect me to believe that?" Jocelyn was speechless, knowing that Quinn was right, that she had stepped into Rowan's trap, that she had betrayed the marriage. "Here are the divorce papers. Take a look at them, and if there's nothing wrong with them, sign them." Quinn pulled a document out of his briefcase and handed it to Jocelyn. Jocelyn took the papers with trembling hands and saw that the words "out of the house" meant that she would lose everything, including the mansion, her luxuries, and all the material support Quinn had given her. She and Quinn married without a prenuptial agreement, and Quinn had the option of not giving her anything. "Quinn, you can't do this to me. I've been with you for 7 years. I've given you the best of my youth. How can you net me?" Jocelyn said excitedly. "You've been with me for 7 years, and I've given you 7 years of a privileged life. You're the one who ruined it all with your own hands." Quinn said expressionlessly, "Sign it and stop wasting your time." Jocelyn knew that Quinn was determined to divorce her, and no amount of begging would help. She wiped away her tears, picked up a pen, and signed her name to the divorce papers. "As of today, we have nothing to do with each other." Quinn collected the divorce papers and stood up, ready to leave. "Quinn," Jocelyn called out to him, "you did all this, didn't you? All that bad press about Rowan, all those unflattering pictures and videos of me, you set it up, didn't you?" Quinn turned and looked at Jocelyn, an imperceptible smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "So what if I am? What can you do about it?" Jocelyn looked at Quinn's smile and felt a chill run down her spine. She finally realized that the man in front of her was no longer the Quinn she once knew. He became cold, unfeeling, and even a little scary. "Why did you do this? Why are you doing this to me?" Jocelyn asked reluctantly. "Why?" Quinn repeated, as if he'd heard a funny joke. "Why didn't you think about why when you betrayed me? When you were enjoying the false romance Rowan was giving you, why didn't you think about why? And now you're asking me why. Don't you think it's too late?" Quinn ignored Jocelyn and turned to leave the restaurant. Jocelyn sat there, tears welling up in her eyes once again. She knows that she's lost Quinn completely and everything. After her divorce, Jocelyn quickly fell from the clouds to the bottom. She lost her financial resources, was forced to move out of her mansion, sold all her luxuries, and even her so-called friends left her in droves. She tries to find a job, but no company will hire her because of the previous scandal. And Rowan ended up worse than Jocelyn. Under Quinn's sustained campaign, Rowan not only lost his reputation and standing, but was also arrested by the police on suspicion of fraud and tax evasion. In court, a team of lawyers hired by Quinn presented ample evidence that Rowan had been using fraudulent art trades to defraud investors and evade significant taxes for years. Ultimately, Rowan was sentenced to 5 years in prison and fined millions of dollars. Quinn was also in the gallery at Rowan's trial. He watched coldly as Rowan was taken away by the bailiffs without a ripple in his heart. He knew that Rowan's life was over, that he'd never get another chance. Jocelyn and Rowan's love and need came to an end. After the court's sentencing, Jocelyn tried to visit Rowan in prison, but Rowan refused to see her. He thinks Jocelyn is a broomstick and brings him bad luck. He even wrote a letter to Jocelyn from prison demanding that she pay for his damages and threatening to expose everything that had happened between her and him if Jocelyn didn't pay. Jocelyn is utterly despondent. She didn't think Rowan would be so heartless. She then realizes how stupid she was to betray Quinn for such a man. After all of this, Quinn can finally rightfully hold a final judgment against Jocelyn and Rowan. He utilized the media resources at his disposal to provide detailed coverage of the Jocelyn and Rowan cases. He describes Jocelyn as a vain woman who betrays her marriage and Rowan as an artist who cheats on women and breaks the law. Quinn also arranged a live, televised debate featuring all the women Rowan has cheated on, a number of prominent social commentators, and Jocelyn and Rowan themselves. Rowan participated via video link. During the show, Jocelyn and Rowan were verbally abused by the crowd, and they paid dearly for their behavior. Jocelyn tearfully confessed on the show, but no one wants to believe her anymore. After the show aired, Jocelyn and Rowan were completely discredited. They have become the antithesis of society and have been reviled and abused by countless people. Quinn, on the other hand, has earned public sympathy and support by portraying himself as a victim. This is the perfect conclusion to Quinn's plan for revenge. He took it upon himself to destroy everything Jocelyn and Rowan had, making them pay a price even more painful than their own. In this way, he proclaimed his victory and warned those who seek to betray and deceive others. After sending Jocelyn and Rowan to their respective destinies, Quinn doesn't feel a sense of relief, but rather an indescribable emptiness. He stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of the mansion where he and Jocelyn had once shared a love nest, overlooking the bustling but indifferent city with mixed feelings. He accomplished his revenge and made the man and woman who betrayed him pay dearly. But then what? Life goes on, but Quinn feels more lost than ever. He began to reflect on his gains and losses in the marriage, as well as the meaning and value of life. Jocelyn, after the divorce, disappears from Quinn's life completely. She moved out of the city to start a new life in a place where no one knew her. She tries to get a job, but because of her previous scandal, she hits a wall everywhere and ends up struggling to get by with odd jobs. Quinn was able to get occasional news about Jocelyn through Vance. He knew Jocelyn was having a hard time, but didn't reach out for help. He believes that this is the price that Jocelyn must pay and the responsibility she should bear for her bad choices. Rowan, on the other hand, had a rough 5 years in prison. He lost his freedom, his honor, and everything he once had. In prison, he was bullied and humiliated by other inmates and tasted human suffering. After his release from prison, Rowan tries to get back into the business, but he realizes that he has long been abandoned by society. No one wants to buy his paintings anymore, and no gallery wants to organize an exhibition for him. He was completely relegated to the status of an unheralded has-been artist who could barely make ends meet with odd jobs. Quinn occasionally thinks of Rowan, but the hatred he felt is long gone. He knew that Rowan had paid the price for his actions and that he, himself, should let go of the grudge and move on. After all of this, Quinn began devoting more of his time and energy to charitable causes. He set up a charitable foundation in the name of his company, specializing in helping women who have suffered from marital misfortunes. Through his power, he hopes to help women like Jocelyn, who have lost themselves, to find their way in life again. Quinn is also active in a number of social causes, calling attention to marriage issues and advocating for fidelity and responsibility. He used his own personal experience to tell people that betrayal and deception only bring pain and destruction, and only sincerity and kindness can win true happiness. Over time, Quinn grew out of the failed marriage. He no longer dwells on past grudges, but devotes more energy to his career and charity. His company has grown under his leadership and has become a leader in the industry. And his charitable foundation has helped more and more women come out of the woodwork and get back on their feet. 5 years later, Quinn accidentally reunites with Jocelyn at a charity event. It was a charity dinner to raise money for women who have experienced domestic violence, and Quinn attended the event as a major donor. Jocelyn, on the other hand, was there to help as a volunteer. Jocelyn has changed a lot since I saw her 5 years ago. She was dressed in plain volunteer clothing. Her face was devoid of the exquisite makeup of the past, replaced by a kind of vicissitude and calmness after years of baptism. There was less of the arrogance and frivolity of the past in her eyes, and more of a maturity and stability. The moment the two met, time seemed to stand still. They gazed at each other with unspoken emotions in their eyes. "It's been a while." Quinn spoke first, breaking the silence, his tone calm and natural. "Long time no see." Jocelyn returned a faint smile, no more resentment or lingering in her eyes, only a calmness that released then. "Are you okay?" Quinn asked. "I'm okay. Are you?" Jocelyn asked rhetorically. "I'm fine too," Quinn replied. A few simple pleasantries, but it seemed to span years of grudges and feuds. Neither of them brought up the past or asked about the other's current situation. They just chatted about inconsequential topics like old friends. "I can feel you've changed a lot, become more mature and responsible than ever before," Quinn said. "People always have to go through things to grow. I want to be thankful for the experiences I've had, both good and bad. They have made me the person I am today," Jocelyn said, her tone filled with gratitude. "It's good to see you like this now," Quinn said heartily. "Thanks. I'd also like to thank you for not killing me back in the day and giving me a chance to start over," Jocelyn said sincerely. "You used to be the closest person to me, and even though you made a mistake, I don't want you to have a bad time," Quinn said, revealing his heart for the first time in front of Jocelyn. "Let bygones be bygones. We should all move on," Jocelyn said. The two of them smiled at each other, and it was all in the air. After this encounter, Quinn and Jocelyn never saw each other again. But they both knew that they had let go of their past grudges and started a new life with each other. Quinn continues his philanthropic endeavors to help as many people as he can. He understands that true happiness does not come from material enjoyment or revenge against enemies, but from inner peace and contribution to society. And Jocelyn, too, has found her own way of life. She became a volunteer and actively participated in various charity events to help those in need. She uses her own personal experience to caution women who, like her, have lost themselves to the importance of loyalty and kindness. Years later, Quinn was asked in an interview what he thought of the episode. He pondered for a long time, then slowly said, "It was a painful experience, but it also made me grow a lot. I learned to let go, to forgive, and how to love. I don't regret what I did, because I know that only by doing so can those who hurt me truly realize their mistakes. And I, myself, can truly let go of the past and embrace the future." Quinn's story is one that has generated a lot of interest and discussion in the community. Some say he was a ruthless avenger, while others say he was a forgiving and generous philanthropist. But no matter what, Quinn became a legend and his experiences became the talk of the town. Quinn, for his part, has put it all behind him. He continues his career and charity, interpreting the true meaning of life with his actions. He knows that true victory is not over others, but over oneself. True happiness is not how much you have, but how much you give. There is still a long way to go in life, and Quinn will continue to move forward and use his wisdom and strength to create a brighter future. And all those former grudges and feuds will be turned into clouds of smoke and dissipate in the torrent of time. Only love and responsibility are eternal themes. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.